Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actual advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. This is Nina Adio here, your host and the owner of I Do Wedding Marketing. And here on this podcast, we like to geek out about all things wedding industry related or marketing related. My particular wheelhouse is social media marketing. I am a big Instagram girly, but I like to bring on guests who can speak on all different types of elements within the wedding industry. And today we have who I consider the authority in the luxury wedding space, Jaclyn Watson. So I met Jackie at another event and she was a speaker. And when I heard her presentation, I was blown away. She made me understand the luxury space and explained it in a way I had never seen before. So I knew when we chatted about doing the podcast that I wanted her to speak about that. And maybe she'll be able to do some luxury marketing tips for us too. I think what we see a lot, and maybe some of us are even experiencing it, is people will say, well, I want to do luxury because luxury means more money, right? But Jackie made me realize that it also means more time. It also means sometimes being on call or different levels of expectations. So that's what we're going to be speaking with Jackie today. But if you haven't met Jackie before, let me tell you about her. Jaclyn Watson of Jaclyn Watson Events brings over a decade of experience in design, production, and vendor relations. Plus, she has a background in performing arts and degrees in psychology and business management. No wonder she is able to handle every aspect of the wedding business, right? From the families to vendors and everything. She's spoken on major industry stages, including Wedding MBA, Catersource, and the special event. And she's known for her detail-driven approach to weddings and business strategy. As a seasoned wedding business consultant, Jackie helps pros at every level build profitable, streamlined businesses rooted in unforgettable client experiences. Her passion for planning, design, and empowering others shines through in everything she does. So make sure you listen to the end of this episode because Jackie will be telling us about her consulting company where she can work directly with you as a wedding professional to achieve business growth. You're going to love everything Jackie has to say today. I just know it. So let's get to the conversation. Jackie, thank you so much for being here. Where are you coming from today?
I am in Vermont right now. I'm back at my home. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still kind of in my PJs because we just got done a wedding and there is no amount of money that's gonna make me get out of my jammies for the next couple of days until I'm fully rested.
Tell everybody how many miles you clocked. This
This past weekend, I clocked 18.5 miles, but the first weekend in June, I actually clocked 22 miles. So it's wild.
Wow, so that's the record for the season. We'll see if you break it.
I don't know. I have a very big one in September 6th where I feel like it's going to be even bigger than that.
So
So
we'll get you at marathon miles, right? There should
I
be some
know.
sort of wedding
Yes,
planner marathon club when you've
yes,
got a marathon
yep,
worth of
that's it.
miles. So, Jackie, what I was really excited to talk to you about, because when you spoke about luxury weddings and that market, you really opened my eyes to it because you made me, and I think the other planners listening, realize that it's not just saying, well, I'm going to do luxury because there's more money in it. There's
Yeah.
a lot that goes into it, and it's not cut out for everybody. So could you
Yeah.
talk a bit about what luxury actually means in the wedding world?
Yeah, I was so excited to talk about that whole luxury sector at Maine EDU. And there was a lot of feedback like yours. And I think the biggest thing to think about before you even enter that field is that there are many expectations. And the stress level is not one of an average wedding. It is 4 and 5 times more than what you are accustomed to. And people who are investing, 200,000 and up, they really want perfection. They want hands-on treatment. They want personalization. They want concierge service. Oftentimes, when you're talking with a regular client who's spending a normal budget of less than 100,000, you send a few emails, you do your things. With the luxury market, you're talking to them via email, phone, Zoom, in person, 4, 5, 6 or more times in one week. So it's a constant maintenance, it's a constant answering of questions. And oftentimes, as much as I don't want to say this, you're not getting paid what you deserve, because depending on the environment and or location that you are located in, you have to charge accordingly. You can't overcharge, because then you won't get the jobs. You can't undercharge, because then you probably won't get the job either. So it's trying to find that sweet spot that's not over or under the other planners that are similar and can do the same thing as you. So,
When you said 200,000
yeah.
plus, I know there are people listening saying, "Great, how do I find those?"
Yeah. So our clients are spending 200 to a million usually, sometimes a little over a million. It depends. We have a couple of those this year actually where we're like at 1.5, but they find you, you don't find them. And that's the whole key to this. It's about marketing your goods in the right way. I'll be very honest, the reason and the why we got into the luxury market was actually because of a wedding that I did in Vermont. This client came to me, knew I had never worked in luxury before, gave me a shot. I nailed it. I beyond nailed it. Like I catapulted it right out of the water. And it was something that I loved doing, because it was being able to really truly craft a story. But the biggest thing that I've learned within this market is luxury talks to luxury. And you can put yourself out there as many ways as you want via advertising. It doesn't mean that it's going to reach that market. 90% of our clients come from word of mouth, from referral from each other. I have one client that has referred probably over a dozen people to me over the years. That's a lot of money. So it's making sure that you have a website that is reflective of who you are and the work that you can do. Luxury clients are very visual people. They can't foresee anything in the future. They really need that visual concept. So if you look at like our website, you'll see all the pretty, right? It's more about the pretty than it is the words. So those are just some of the ways to think about how to touch point on those clients. And but you have to also think like them. If, for instance, a client comes to me and they have their Manolo Blahnik shoes on, I'm going to wear something that is reflective of that so that they understand that I know what luxury is. And that's the big thing when marketing to this crowd is you really need to understand what they're investing in, why they're investing. And it's just not just about the wedding day. It's the clothes they wear, the food they eat, the places they go. Understanding the entire concept and mentality of the luxury market is what will put you out there and get you seen.
How do you, I assume you kind of juggle both. And I say this just because, when I met you at Maine Weddings EDU, we're just chilling at kind of the B&B, casual in our
Yeah,
comfy clothes like we both are now. And then when you go on stage, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing a whole different
all
person.
different person.
So how do you juggle that?
So I'll be very honest. I am an introvert. A lot of people don't know that about me. If you put me in a room with 50 people and I'm not leading, I will be somewhere in the corner hiding because I am socially awkward. I am accident prone on top of that. I tell horrible jokes and I just am a true introvert unless I'm leading. So it's really I love this industry for that fact because many of us, and I would say more than half of the industry are introverts. And the only way that we know how to push forward is by being leaders in our group. And that's what I do. It's almost like my brain switches over the minute I'm speaking or the minute that I have to take charge of something. And I'm very comfortable in that leadership role. And that's what you saw was that instant brain switch of, oh, hey, I'm in charge. Everybody's listening to me, so I know exactly what I'm going to say and do. If I'm not in charge, it's a whole different ball game, and I almost forget how to mix and mingle with people because of that dynamic, because I'm so used to being in charge. But I do think it's a really awesome dynamic that we have in our industry to know that so many of us are introverts. And to that point, too, a lot of us are neurodivergent in this industry. And I don't know if you know that. Like a lot of people have dyslexia, a lot of people have other different things that impact how they think, how they act, what they do, and everything. And it's not often talked about.
Do you find that just in the industry, or what do you deal with when working with clients as well? Are they introverts? Are they extroverts?
I would have to say most of our clients are introverts, especially in the luxury market. And it's not because they want to be, it's because they feel they need to be. When you have oodles of money, people want to see it. People want to know you. So our clients are very private. We're very respectful of any wedding or event that we do for them in way of showing who they are, what they do. We've had multiple families on like Forbes 500, and you're never going to see their faces because we don't want that, and they don't want that either. So they are quiet, they are kept to themselves, they're refined, they are amazing communicators. They want what they want when they want it, and that's something to think about. And I think that we do have, we do have clients that are extroverts that are really, really social and out there. But I find most of the time they're not spending as much as the quieter people.
You mentioned your website being very visual, and so
Yeah.
I was curious, where else should a luxury planner focus their marketing?
That's a really hard question, especially in today's market because things are changing and you and I were just talking about this. The client dynamic is changing as we speak. The overall wedding industry is changing as we speak. And it's been kind of doing this for the last few years, and this year is really prevalent in that change. So I really think the best way for advertising is word of mouth and referrals and making sure, that you follow up with your clients. One of the things that I mentioned when I was teaching at Maine EDU was that, when a client comes to you, you need to make sure and send a welcome letter and maybe a little welcome gift. And when that client is done, you need to send a thank you letter and a follow-up. And then if you know their birthday or a Christmas card, be sending something then because that client is going to refer you to dozens of other clients. And really, truthfully, that is the best way to market out there. There are some pretty amazing sites. Honestly, I think the best thing to do is to be a part of different organizations that understand what you do and how you do it. Emerge Event Collective is one of them. I'm actually on the board of directors with Sarah Rosham. She's created this amazing collective where you get to be with other people that are like-minded and that know exactly what you're doing, and therefore, it can be very referral based. We are working with a number of Emerge people this year just because of that, and vice versa. So things like that are really important. NACE, WIPA, putting yourself out there in those markets really help because when you're seen, the more you're seen, the more people talk about you. And I've kind of ended up with somehow being thought of as kind of the mom of the industry up here. Everybody comes to me for questions. It doesn't matter if you're a planner, photographer. I get weekly emails and texts of what do I do? What are your thoughts? Where do I go? And that's okay because I love that. I love that feeling of being able to care about people. And in our industry, we're all people pleasers. That's all we want to do is please people. So I'm kind of at home with that. And again, that's another great way of putting yourself out there that doesn't cost any money, right? There are other places that you could certainly advertise. Party Slate is great. It's luxury based, but it's more business to business than it is business to consumer. There is a lot of controversy with the knot, whether or not you should be on it, if it's a waste of money, if it's not a waste of money. Listen, I'm on it because I get great SEO from it. That's the only reason I'm on it. So I'm going to continue with that. I don't advertise. That's the other thing. Like most of the time, luxury people aren't going to be where you live, right? Because we're not living in Aspen. We're not living, in a beautiful upscale location. So I try to target places that I know luxury people will be, New York, Boston, London, things like that. So you got to be really strategic in how you're putting yourself out there.
I wanted to ask, as you were talking about the gifts for clients,
Yeah.
welcome gifts, thank you gifts. What is or is there a kind of standard procedure when it comes to the vendor referrals? Do you give each other gifts, or are there commissions within one another, or does that really vary?
This is a topic that is very controversial. I'm going to go out on the limb and probably put myself out there, and I'll probably get a lot of feedback. I am totally for getting kickbacks, as they call them. I don't get it a lot. I have certain people that I work with that, maybe I get a little commission because I worked my ass off to get that client to go to them because their product is really good. When it's vendor to vendor, no. For me, my thing is I want to be able to refer people that can work with me and want to work with me and that are going to give me 110%. I send them Christmas gifts. I send them thank you notes at the end of the year, but that's really where it ends. I don't want to get into a scenario where they're constantly asking, well, what do I get for commission or what do I get for that? I don't want anything and I don't want my vendors to want anything. But there are certain things like Amazon affiliate programs where you do get kickbacks. Those are great. There are certain linen companies that, you're using their direct product where there is a reasonable, little commission to say, hey, thanks for coming to us. They get to do that because they are a bigger organization and it makes sense. But for me, vendor to vendor, any kickbacks or commission doesn't make sense.
And I like the idea of, look, you have these seasons that are for showing appreciation, and giving,
Yeah,
whether it's a holiday gift or whatnot.
yeah,
I think you can't argue that. So hopefully people will be kind in the feedback. I think that's a good
yeah. And
compromise.
there's there is no reason why your vendors are working their butts off, right? I have caterers that will put in as many hours as I do on site. So yeah, I'm going to be sending them a really big thank you, whether that's, a great holiday gift basket. I always send holiday gift baskets to a lot of my vendors that got me through the year. And it's not just to say, "Hey, thanks for doing one wedding." It's to say, you got me through the entire season. Without you, I couldn't have done this. This is my way of showing you a little love and appreciation. And I love it when I get little gifts from like my photographers. One of my photographers actually sent me the coolest mug and of course chocolate and a s'mores kit. And I love s'mores and I love hot chocolate. It was during the winter and it was just out of the blue to say, "Hey, thanks for referring us." It really meant a lot. And it was so nice. And I sat there and I drank that and I'm like, yeah, we work really well together. So
And I think the biggest gift we can give is the referral itself, right? And then
amen
doing
to
a
that.
good job with it.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the guarantee to keep it going,
Well,
hopefully.
and there's a lot of I will dare say this too. I tend not to work with the same photographer over and over again, same florist over and over again. I really truly believe that in order to diversify and in order to make sure that my clients understand that I am not just one genre of design, I am multiple, and therefore I need to work with multiple people. And we do have people that get really upset with us of, hey, you've only used us once this year. Why aren't you using us all the time? Well, if I used you all the time, I would not be growing my business because it would be the same thing repetitive over and over again. And that's kind of how I also look at being able to give back to our community is by being able to say, I want to work with someone new or I want to work with somebody different every time I have a wedding. Do I have my go-tos? In certain things, absolutely. Like rentals, I need to make sure like I'm using Peak or Vermont Tent or, wherever I'm at, I have a really strategic relationship with those people. But when it comes to like photo and video and florals, things like that, I'm always going to diversify because I need that in my portfolio.
Can you explain to those listening why, even though with word of mouth and referrals being your biggest lead source, why social media is still important?
Yeah, so so I will actually say we probably get around 30 or 40% of our leads through social media, Instagram in particular. Don't let me go down the TikTok road because I can't even. But social media is proof. It's visual proof, right? It's things that are happening in that very moment. And it's really important to remember, and I teach this in my marketing classes with wedding pros, is the client no longer wants to see the pretty picture of the bride and groom or the tablescape. They actually want to see the behind the scenes. They want to see you digging into the trenches. They want to see how that production is done, what it takes to make a wedding successful or an event successful. Because that's what creates a trust factor. Like they're seeing you actually do the work. So social media, because of that, is really, really important. And the other thing to think about too is the generation that we are in. Like, I was born in 77. I didn't grow up on social media. I didn't even know what Instagram and Facebook and all those were for the longest time. But that's all anybody knows now. Like with the generations that we are in, whether it be the millennials or Generation Z, they don't know anything else. They don't even remember what a phone booth was, right? So it's really important to make sure that you have that social proof and that status on social media because it gets you out there. And the other thing to think about too is algorithms are constantly changing. So when you're up to speed on your SEO and everything, you get a lot of feedback or a lot of likes from those people on social media. So, and it's not just the client that you're looking for, it's the moms, it's the dads, it's the fiancés, it's you're targeting everybody. It's you're casting a huge wide net on social media because you're hoping within that net you catch four, five, six different fish that can then branch out and send you down into different ponds and lakes and streams and so forth.
It sounds like your SEO isn't just a one place thing. It looks like you're considering SEO from
Multiple.
a lot of areas. Yeah. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that a bit?
Yeah, so SEO, so algorithms constantly change. That's the number one thing to think about. And people get really freaked out because they don't understand algorithms. Frankly, neither do I. But I do know one thing, and that is they are constantly changing, probably on a weekly basis. And making sure that your website SEO is up to date is really important. Making sure that you're using the proper words on your Instagram or your TikTok or your Facebook is really important because those little Google bots will go out and they'll source them and they'll grab them. And if you don't have the right words, then you're kind of pushed down and you don't get seen as much. And there are multiple platforms that you can go on and chat AI is one of them. I use ChatGPT a lot where you can go in and say, what are the top trending 2025 wedding words that need to go into my SEO? It's no longer a matter of oh my gosh, I don't have time to do this, or I don't understand this, because now we have the tools to understand it and to help us. And you want to make sure your SEO is up to date, and you constantly want to be, every year or every few months changing those words, because if you use the same words over and over again, then the Google bots don't see something new and they think that you're stagnant, and then they don't put that out there.
That was so good that I opened up ChatGPT while you were talking and put in what are the top 2025 wedding words that need to go
Yeah.
into my SEO. So that was
Yeah.
really fun.
Well, and the other thing, and I teach AI a lot, so I'm always happy to do private classes and just group classes. But you can use, people shouldn't be afraid of AI, especially in our wedding industry, because this is the one place where you you lose so much time. Like, we're working 16, 17 hours a day, but because of AI, you gain back a lot of your time. And it's really great to be able to go into something like that, into that structure, put in your website and say, hey, I need you to run a website analysis. What are all the key points that you see that are putting me out there, but what are all the red flags that I need to change?
So do you have your hand in all the marketing? Like, are you doing the social media yourself?
So I have my hand in the marketing, but I'm not doing it. So anything that's done via social media is done through my team. Like, I had Diane, who was one of my assistants. She was great at social media. So she was doing the social media for me. And now my event producer, Allison, who is young and completely understands social media, wanted to take it over, which is even better. So I think personally, it's really great to be able to have somebody, if you have it within your team, to do it, because they're right there with you on the ground. They see what you're seeing, they see what you're doing, and then you can have your hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, the entire time. So for that reason, that's why I try to do social media for my team, but I have used outside sources too, and it's just a matter of making sure that those sources understand what you're trying to convey as a message, so that that gets out there.
Yeah, I asked because your social media is very good. So I recommend everybody go follow Jaclyn Watson Events, Jaclyn. So everyone can follow along because it's very good, very good.
Yeah, we try to be really honest and open when we're doing that, and we try and show a lot of behind the scenes too.
Which is great because you also mentioned the privacy of your clients. So not all of them you're going to be able to put face forward.
Correct. Yeah, but it's really cool to be able to put like different designs out there, how we work, like just even like showing people how you lay linens down, or how you're working with vendors, how you're coming up with menus, the before and after photos, it's pretty wild, and it gets you a lot.
What does somebody listening really need to know before they consider rebranding to a luxury market?
Know what you're getting into. This is definitely not for the faint of heart. There are many nights that I lose sleep. I absolutely love what I do, and it's funny because this past weekend, a part of me, we had some curveballs thrown at us, and there was a part of me saying, why am I in this? Do I even want to do this anymore? And that's something I think, as wedding pros, we all go through every season of, we doubt ourselves and we wonder, why are we putting ourselves through this? We're the only industry, where we are there from the very beginning, and we're there till the very end, and we're on our feet 17 or 18 hours a day. We're putting over 600 hours of work, for planners in general. And a lot of people don't understand that. So before, I think my biggest piece of advice is, before you enter the field, know the amount of work that you're going to put into it. Because, when you're working with a luxury market and they are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars, this is not a generic or average wedding. Like, it is not going to be an 8-hour day. This is going to be a 4 or 5 day event of setup, tear down, dynamics, logistics. Like there's so much that goes into it, and you have to be prepared for that.
And I think, what I get from, the presentations you've given and such is that it's okay if it's not for you, you know?
Absolutely. When I first started, I started out just like everybody else. I did a really low end wedding and it just kept building. And I kept saying to myself, well, I really like this. I like where I'm going. I'm in a great place now because I love to design. Like that's my background is design. I went to college for psychology. I went to school for design and color theory and all those wonderful things. So I'm where I'm supposed to be. And there are, even where I'm at, there is room to grow and to go beyond that, to do 5, $6 million weddings. Frankly, I don't want to do those. I'm kind of in a sweet spot right now where I get to tell this story, but I'm not working with clients that are so pretentious that the wedding gets lost. And for me, that's really important because I don't want to do events where it's about the money. I want to do events where it's about the family and about the story and about creating something for those clients that they'll remember for the rest of their lives.
It's funny. It made me think of during the holidays, Disney will, at one of their resorts, they do like the gingerbread
Yes,
display or the
yes.
chocolate, and then they'll say like 500 pounds of eggs were used to do this. And I'm like, why would you want to say that?
What?
Like, why
Yes,
would you want to show off that you wasted all this food for decor?
yes.
And I imagine that's what it can get like when you get too far up,
Yeah,
the
yeah. And we've had a couple clients where, I've had to say, listen, I think that you're doing this for the wrong reason. When you initially came to me, we were going to do it for this reason. So what's making you want to change that direction? And I think the other thing, before you go into this field is to know that everything you say can be turned against you. So communication is so important, making sure that you record everything, making sure that you repeat back to that client what you're hearing because our perception of something is going to be very different than their perception. So making sure that you have that really solid communication. And it's a lot more communication than an average wedding.
and you have them sign stuff too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have a number of things that help us and protect us, both sides. One, when a client signs with us, we send them a 15-page questionnaire and it asks really personal questions and it asks really crazy questions and it asks all sorts of things from what type of furniture do they have into their home, what's their favorite restaurant, where they met, their love story, et cetera, et cetera. But we also have in our contracts that we are blunt. If you can't deal with blunt, we might not be your planner. We have a abuse clause in our contract. If you are emotionally abusive, physically abusive, micromanaging, controlling, anything like that, we can't work with you. And the reason I say this is because there's so many times, like weddings are one of the most emotional days you'll ever go through. And it's so important to remember why you're doing that. And a lot of clients tend to forget that because they get so caught up in the emotion. And even as a vendor, I get caught up in the emotion. And because I'm a people pleaser, I take things to heart. I take things really personal. So if we're halfway through the design process and you come back and you say you hate the design, I'm going to question everything I do because I'm like, where did I go wrong? But at the same token, on the opposite side, you have to say to yourself, okay, this is a client. They're seeing something different that I'm not seeing. And now you have to figure it out. And being in this field, because there is so much emotion and emotions are running rampant, clients get fidgety, they can become mean and they can become disrespectful just as much as you can. So truly, it is a two-way street of making sure that you're both respectful to each other, that you're both kind to each other. We've had certain clients that like to swear a lot at each other, and those are the dynamics. And we kind of figure out, okay, can I work within this dynamic? Do I understand why this dynamic is happening? Or is this being really mean and rude? And should I say something? So it's just trying to weigh all those things and making sure that you're protecting both yourself and the client, but also the vendors that you're bringing into it.
So my next question, Jackie, I imagine like wedding planners are as organized as their events and timelines are. So in my mind, I've been trying to find a morning routine. Do
Yeah.
you have a morning routine? And
No.
is it, no.
Okay, so you want to hear the God's honest truth, Nina?
Mhm.
I am the most disorganized person at home. My husband absolutely hates it. I will leave a dish in the sink and he's like, "Why can you not be so organized here as you are with your clients?" That's why. I'm working with my clients 600 plus hours and it's constant detail, detail, detail. Organization of everything. When I come home, I don't want to be organization. I need a mess because it brings me comfort. And that might be whacked out, but it's the God's honest truth. Like, am I living in squalor? No, absolutely not. I sweep, I do the dishes, I do all of that. I have my organization is based on my work. I have timelines that I do every day. I meditate every day, which is really, really important. I'm in this meditation class, Gurminder Banga. And one of the things that he has taught us is that we have to allow ourselves time in order to be able to give time back to our family and to our clients. Like we have to take time ourselves. So when I get up, I have a morning routine, and that is, we're going to eat, we're going to do some meditation, and then we're going to go to work. And then I try to end at a certain time in the day and I go work out to release all that stress and pressure. And then I do it all over again. But, I also live my live my life by timelines as well because they bring me great joy and comfort. I like having a plan A, B, and C, whereas my husband is fly by the seat of his pants and he'll literally make me deviate just to see how I'll react, which is never good at all, especially if you're a type A. And it really is. I think it's really individual of how you do things and what makes things work. Business wise, I think there's so many things that can help you get organized now because of AI, and that really has helped me immensely.
How do you, being as busy as you are, maintain your own education? Because it seems you're on top of everything, the marketing, the AI, the industry
Yeah.
trends, and so
Yeah.
forth.
Well, I'm an industry speaker. That's number one. Number two, I am continuously going to different classes. I go to Catersource every year. And even though I speak, I'm still taking 15 or 20 classes. I'm constantly reading on trends. Like I'm looking at Vogue, I'm looking at Harper's, I'm looking at what I'm seeing within the industry from other vendor peers. And the reason that I know all the things I know is because I am well informed. And you are only as good as you educate yourself. So there are many people that I know that's never been to a conference. Well, those people haven't grown either. And it's really important, and I cannot express it enough, that you need to always, always be educating yourself. And you can take online classes, you can go to different conferences like Catersource or Emerge. They have all different online stuff. Your local NACE chapter, WIPA chapter, they're always having education classes. So for me, I'm always going out there trying to learn new things. And I will say this too. I don't learn just about wedding stuff. Like I'll go out with a florist and sit with them to understand their different recipes and why they do what they do. I'll go out with a caterer and sit down with them or even be on their back line to help serve to understand the different dynamics that they have. Because as a planner, if you don't understand what each and every one of your vendors do, you cannot create a proper timeline and you can't give them what you need. You need to know and understand power requirements. A DJ always needs power and it needs to be close by. A caterer always needs a catering tent and prep tables, and they always need some kind of light and fans because you've got food and it's hot. So there are so many logistics that you constantly have to be educating yourself on.
I think that really was the best advice right there. It's like being present in the different roles. There's
Yeah.
no way to duplicate that education other than doing it. right?
other than doing it. And that's how I started in this field. When I first began in tented events, Nancy Mead was a mentor to me from Vermont Tent Company, and she taught me so much about tents, how they flow, how to understand them, the different styles, the different concepts. And I just kind of kept going through the ranks. Like I worked with catering, I worked with my florists, I did all the things, with them to understand before I even referred them. And it's the reason, I think it's the number one reason that I have such good peer-to-peer and vendor relationships is because I can truly go back to them or back to, my rental company or whatever and say, hey, my caterer needs all of this because and being able to successfully communicate that to your clients of listen, we need two ovens because of X, or, your florist needs to make a second bouquet because the weather might tank and the first bouquet could, die. And understanding all the different dynamics of those people is really important and it will help you succeed. It will help you grow.
Now, in addition to Jaclyn Watson events, you have another company where wedding
I do.
professionals can work with you, get some
Yeah.
of this great knowledge. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
So I created this past year a passion project that I've been doing behind the scenes for a long time. As I said, I'm kind of known as the mom of the industry and everybody comes to me for advice. And I finally, took the leap and said, you know what, I just want to be able to give back to my community. And I created Echelon Creative and Co., where it's a marketing and branding company for wedding entrepreneurs directly. And the reason I wanted that was because I didn't have many of the things that are available out there when I started coming through this industry. So I want to be able to give back and I want to be able to say, I have a planner that I'm working with right now in Colorado, and it was all about communication and how they were touching point with their clients, and they kept being told no. And, a month or two into working with me, they've now gotten three clients because of how I've taught them. And for me that means the world. Like I'm able to finally share the knowledge that I have, whether it be the mishaps, the failures, the wins, whatever, and say this is what it needs and this is what it means to be successful. These are all the things we should change for you to grow. So I love the company. I'm truly excited for it and I love being able to consult and teach. It's kind of my passion.
Yeah, and I'm following both you at Jaclyn Watson and Echelon Creative Co. on Instagram. So where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Anybody can reach out to me via email or phone. I'm always available. I want to talk to you. I want to meet you and, shoot me a text or whatever and say, "Hey, let's do a coffee date." You can't ever know too many people in this industry. And I think that's really important. Just because they might not match your clientele doesn't mean that they won't match somebody else that you could refer them to. We're in this very unique industry where we get to refer each other. So the more people you know, the better. So I'm available all the time, anytime. You can text, email, call, write, whatever.
I love that. I love how forthcoming you've been and candid and just you were letting me give you some of the hard questions and you answered everything honestly and in a way that's really going to help everybody out. Thank you so much for being here today,
Oh,
Jackie,
I'm
taking this
so glad
time.
that we get to have this conversation. This is always awesome.
Yeah, so thank you to everybody listening. Be sure you reach out to Jackie or myself and let us know what you thought of the episode or work with Jackie and really transform your business. It just took me a few minutes of watching Jackie speak and educate to know that this lady knows her stuff. Thank you, Jackie, and I will see you all next time on the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast. Hey guys, this is a quick update from Nina from the future. I am so excited because I have a free webinar for you guys with Julie Novak from Party Slate. Julie had shown me at the last Emerge event collective retreat in New York City some incredible new features coming to Party Slate. And as a social media manager, these are features that are actually going to make your social media management, whether it's outsourced or done on your own, so much easier and so much more impactful. She's going to show you all
what these features are and how you can use them September 18th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. You can check my Instagram at I Do Wedding Marketing, where I'll be updating with the webinar link. And once the webinar link is live, we will add it into the show notes here. But I wanted to get the word out to you guys as soon as possible. It's a free webinar, an hour long, and I think it's really going to change how you show up for your business. So I hope you'll join me there.